Hey everybody on YouTube, Karl Alexander here, and in today's video I'm going to be taking a look at the 2013 game, Tomb Raider. Tomb Raider is an action-adventure game that was released in March of 2013 for PlayStation, Xbox, Mac OS X, and Windows. Linux and Steam OS support were also added in early 2016. Tomb Raider was developed by Crystal Dynamics and is a complete reboot of the popular franchise which started in 1996. The game features a redesigned Lara Croft, new origin story, and new survival mechanics. First, I need to talk about the story. It's lazy, has some cheesy dialogue, and a narrative that is suited for an 80s B movie. That sounds harsh, but for a game that's otherwise really high quality, it really stands out. Essentially, Tomb Raider reboots the franchise and follows a young Lara Croft on her first adventure. Lara, a recent archaeology graduate, is a part of a documentary team making a film on the lost city of Yamatai, funded by a rich family who claim to be descendants of the native population. Lara is convinced that Yamatai is in the Dragon's Triangle, but the professor of the voyage, Dr. James Whitman, is convinced it's not. Lara's mentor and captain, Conrad Roth, agrees that Lara's fresh idea is the best and only option, so they sail into the Triangle. Soon after, a storm destroys the ship and maroons the crew on an island, which is of course Yamatai. Lara is separated from the group and has to survive on her own until she can be reunited with the crew. Now that doesn't sound so bad. However, the game features a very weak set of characters. The group is diverse, but full of tropes and stereotypes. You've got the big Pacific Islander guy who believes in the supernatural, the nerdy white dude who's only good with technology, the sassy black woman who really cares deep down, the old badass but supportive adventurer who is over the hill, the professor who lacks any common sense, the crazy old European guy, and Sam. She's in college, I guess. Not a single one of these characters are interesting, and even if they were, you never really get to see Lara interact with them. There are some journal entries that give additional insight into the characters as you progress, but these are optional, sometimes hidden entries. If you're going off the cutscenes alone, you hardly get a handle on who these people are. The game tries to pluck some heartstrings by occasionally killing off a character, but it's much like a crappy movie. It's trying to use a character's death to add some weight to the narrative, when in reality there is none. Besides the characters, the pacing is troubled. For example, after defeating a few dozen enemies and almost falling to your death to reach your camp, you're told to go to your old ship to find some tools to repair a boat. The reasoning for getting the tools is there, but it seems very mundane after so much excitement. One minute you're saving your friends from the clutches of an insane cult and ziplining down a mountain to save your life, and the next you're doing a fetch quest. Ugh. Tomb Raider is incredibly cinematic, but fails to keep a strong pace once the plot gets going. It's that stop-start action that hurts the story. And don't get me wrong, slow moments that allow character development are good, but slowing down the game to extend the plot isn't. If anything saves the story, it's Lara. She's a strong character who's established as naive, but also ambitious, dedicated, and ready to take on an adventure. She faces challenges along the way, like having to kill to survive, which initially makes her very uncomfortable. Lara's a relatable person in a progressively tougher situation, who has to find the internal strength to forge ahead. She starts the game as a naive college graduate and ends the story as a tough survivor. It's a simple arc that sets up the series for the future. It's sad to see such a bland story lead a good character like Lara. It's not like the concept of the story couldn't work, but with characters you don't care about, a predictable storyline, and inconsistent pacing, it doesn't work well. So with the story out of the way, I can finally talk about how good this game looks. You've probably already noticed that Tomb Raider has a great presentation. Its locations are unique, graphics are high quality, and the game's performance is rock solid. I've played games that had good frame rates, but this game stuck to 60 almost the entire time, only dipping into the 50s a few times in very specific situations. The best part of the presentation are the locations. Graphic quality aside, the overall scale and atmosphere is impressive. I never felt like I was seeing reused art assets, and it never had any backtracking. Around every corner was an awesome new vista or shrine. The voice acting's good, but nothing special. A few characters like Lara, Sam, and Roth stand out, but with Roth I could only hear Brynjolf from Skyrim.
Your pockets, they're a little low on coin. I can tell.
The soundtrack does really well in keeping up with the game. During some of the creepy tomb stuff, it plays like a horror movie, and during a building collapse, it plays like a big budget action movie, but it maintains a consistent aesthetic. The animations are excellent, transitions are smooth, and motion is fluid, giving the game a very realistic look. The death animations are some of the best I've seen in a while, and there was a certain satisfaction with shooting an enemy down from a rope. The animations, combined with the sound effects, just make little moments like that more fun. Crystal Dynamics put a ton of effort into Tomb Raider, and it shines through. Laura's model redesign brings the character into a new generation, maintaining that Lara is an attractive woman, but curbing the unrealistic sexualization of the previous games in the series. In all, it's a fantastic presentation that impressed me from start to finish. Gameplay centers around third-person platforming, combat, and puzzle solving. The game's promotional materials like to claim it has survival elements, but I'm really at a loss what they're even talking about. Lara doesn't require resources to survive, and the experience is very linear, with only hidden tombs taking you slightly off the main track. The game does feature wildlife that Lara can hunt for salvage materials, but she doesn't require food, water, or medicine. The only survival theme mechanic I see is the survival instincts. Survival instincts is really just a simple waypoint and clue system to alert the player of objects of interest or where to go. When it's activated, the screen goes black and white, with points of interest glowing yellow. The mode can only be used while standing still, so it's really just there to provide some extra info to the player, but I wouldn't call it a survival mechanic. The combat and platforming are very similar to other games in the genre, utilizing contextual controls, quick-time events, and simple cover mechanics for combat. So if you've played any modern third-person game, nothing will be too surprising. The gameplay is smooth and has some great animations, and the controls are tight and accurate. The platforming is where I had some issues. Since platforming relies on contextual controls, jumping can be a bit wonky and cause you to die. For example, if you don't wait for Lara to change to a leaning animation on a cliff, she may not jump sideways, causing you to fall to your death. This happens even if you're holding in the direction you want to go. The game avoids frustration by having a ton of checkpoints, but if you've played any other game that does climbing, it can be a bit annoying that the controls and animations don't keep up with your pace. However, that's not to say the platforming is all bad. It was my favorite part of the game. Seeing Lara leap over a bridge that's collapsing, or rushing down a river while shooting down barriers with a shotgun is just pure fun. So many times I was just lost in the pure ridiculous nature of the action, and with the smooth animations and frame rate, it all comes together for some great scenes. Puzzle solving is also a large aspect to the game. They appear in most optional tombs, and also are scattered around the main story. Usually the puzzles involve some sort of simple logic of timing multiple things and finding the right combination. They integrate environmental factors like weather conditions and stationary switches. They also use Laura's rope arrows, fire arrows, and climbing axe. While these won't have you scratching your head, they do provide something to break up the action. Skill upgrades are available once you have enough experience to level up. You gain experience by finding hidden items, tombs, and killing enemies. The upgrades are just simple additions onto things you already do, such as making you find more salvage for weapon upgrades, or just a finishing move with a certain weapon. The weapon upgrades work in a similar fashion, but use salvage that you find in the wild. The more you upgrade your weapons, the better they get, sometimes adding useful additions like flame arrows. I played the game on normal and never ran into any problems with upgrading. I just kinda picked the ones that look good and it seemed to work out fine. The upgrade system is a nice feature, but really just seemed to be there as a system to unlock new items. It isn't very deep, and at times seemed a bit unnecessary, considering how linear the game is and how tightly the difficulty is managed. The gameplay isn't perfect, but it's fun. I haven't used that word much in my previous reviews, and that was the biggest surprise while playing Tomb Raider. I found myself smiling like an idiot while playing this game. It may not have a deep upgrade system or fancy open world, but it's got a great difficulty balance and solid mechanics, making the game simply fun. Tomb Raider is a solid game. It's cinematic and exciting. Its narrative has some weak writing, bland character design, and weird pacing, but overall it gets the job done. I think fewer characters could have helped focus the game's story and give more meaning to the few moments of character development the game had. Gameplay is solid with decent third-person combat and a ton of cool platforming segments. The contextual controls can get a bit frustrating, but the exciting action sequences make up for any control issues. The presentation gives us a redesigned Lara Croft and some really impressive set pieces with great performance. I got Tomb Raider on sale for $5. That is a crazy deal for the AAA experience it provides. If you're just looking for something fun to play, it's a great option. It doesn't feature the deepest story or gameplay, but it provides 10 plus hours of solid single player content, which these days is sometimes a lot to ask for.
Okay everybody, that was my video for this week. I hope you liked it. If you did, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't, I think you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this one in the future. And coming up next week, maybe a week after that, I'm going to be doing a review on Fallout 4 Far Harbor. It's the new big expansion pack for Fallout 4. So I just started playing that, and I hope you enjoy that one. I'll see you then.